of the heart flows the issues of life. And many of these issues stem from one's emotional, mental, and spiritual condition. Such issues may oppress, stifle, and even stagnate one from living a healthy and fulfilling life. So how does one progress past such issues and achieve a state of emotional, mental, and spiritual healing? There's help, so open your heart and prepare your mind. It's time for healing to take place in your life. You're in tuned to Talking with Dr. Toy, a holistic approach to emotional healing. And now, your host, licensed professional counselor, Dr. Toy Lisa Mitchell.
It's just me and you. I feel so lost, 'cause I don't know what to do.
Well, good Sunday morning. Thank you so much for tuning in to Talking with Dr. Toy. Comes your way every Sunday. Listen, I always want to thank you so much for tuning in to the broadcast, the podcast. I am so grateful. And I always want to start off with my purpose. My purpose is to provide a holistic approach to emotional healing. Therefore, my mission to provide a holistic and restorative therapeutic approach in addressing and resolving issues that adversely affect the emotional, psychological, spiritual, and physical well-being of individuals who desire to enhance their quality of life. I do want to do a self-care check. How are you? And what did you do? And what are you doing for self-care? I am so really wanting to emphasize self-care, especially with all the things happening in this world. Listen, self-care is self-preservation. That's not my quote, Audre Lorde, and I thank goodness that we're seeing self-care is not just a luxury, but it is a lifeline. It's a lifeline to improve aspects of our health and mental well-being. And just to give you a brief definition, not mine, but I do love it, the practice of taking an active role in protecting your own well-being. And we talk about self-care holistically, right? The physical, the social, right? The emotional, the spiritual, all the things. These are necessary in order for us to really cultivate a practice of taking care of ourselves. And one of the things that I've told others, and I'm encouraging you to do the same as well, make sure that you put yourself on your schedule. Yes, we have so many things scheduled for meetings, pickups, and all the things. But I do wonder, do you have a moment of self-care on your schedule? 5 minutes. That's all. I'm telling you, incremental steps can make huge change. And so I've been advocating just 5 minutes, 2 days a week, where you can just use this practice of the 3 A's, right? Number one, awareness, really beginning to cultivate ways in which you can sit still and definitely take in that diaphragmatic breath so that you're anchored and that you're centered, and you can really cultivate some awareness of how you are doing, right? How you are and what you are experiencing. And then that second A, turning towards that, not away from it. Many of us practice avoidance, but no, turning towards it. And then number 3, attending. What is it that is needed? What is it that is needed for you in those moments? That's brief, right? So when we talk about self-care, doesn't take a lot of money, doesn't take a lot of time, but it does take intentionality. It does take you taking an active role. And I love this definition of protecting your own well-being, because there are forces out there that are seeking. You know, the Bible talks about the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Things that come to steal and kill your joy. And we talked about that. This joy that I have, the world didn't give, the world didn't take away. We talked about that joy in our last podcast. So if you didn't tune into that, I would encourage you to go on my website at talkingwithdrtoy.com. Go onto my website and click on the tab that talks about podcasts, and you'll see all my podcasts there that you've missed. I'm encouraging you to cultivate that joy in our lives, and that's an aspect of self-care. Right. And then next concept of community care, people committed to leveraging their privilege to be there for one another in various ways. And how I reframe that: how did you show up for others, and how did you allow others to show up for you? That balance of community care and self-care is such a necessity. Hope that you're doing that. And as well as, again, that internal self-awareness, taking time to pause so you can really do some introspective work on, am I living accordance, in congruence with my values? Where I am right now, how do I feel towards that? Are there some things that are lacking in my life? Are there things that are undeveloped in my life? What's missing and what's present that I can continue to grow in? These are things that help us cultivate a sense of wellness and well-being. And I'm hoping that you're definitely taking the initiative to impart those things in your life. And so we're continuing the series. I'm going to jump right in. We're continuing the series. This is for us. And I'm really talking to Black women. This is for us. And so we've been talking about various things that I've been using as my anchor article, this beautiful article by Melvina Young that talks about letting the strong Black woman rest. And we've talked about several aspects, and we springboarded this with the quote by Audre Lorde: caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it's self-preservation. And then this other quote from a book entitled The Inner Critic: I deserve to feel good about myself without having to earn it. And so we talked about unpacking the strong Black woman myth. We talked about that previously. We talked about prioritizing mental wellness and self-care, normalizing mental health conversations. We talked about that as well. And we talked about cultivating that Black girl joy. Again, this is from Young's article. So we talked about that as well. Actively finding places where you can feel safe and supported, and not negating those places, not giving up. Because I know sometimes what we do is that if we've been burnt, right, if we've been disappointed, if we've been discouraged, sometimes we tend not to go back to those. We tend not to go back to those spaces or try similar spaces because of what we experienced previously. So we may give it up. We may give up on it entirely. And what I mean by that is that maybe you've tried to cultivate healthy relationships, but the people that you've cultivated those with have disappointed you in some ways, have turned and not been who you thought they would be. And so basically have made this vow in yourself: well, I'm just not going to, I'm just going to be by myself. It's just going to be me, myself, and I, because I'm tired of getting hurt. And I get that. We definitely want to be protective in ways, but also too, we don't want to be in this sense where we don't try again. Because when we don't try again, what's happening is we're not giving our system all that it needs. We are wired for connection, and we want to cultivate healthy relationships. And I always want to distinguish between healthy relationships and perfect relationships. Relationships are going to be energy. You're going to have energy. Energy is going to be expended in relationships. Why? Because you're in relationships with people that are fallible, that has issues. So relationships are not going to be perfect. And sometimes what happens is we may get in relationships and they trigger that trauma response, and we want to kind of go inward and protect ourselves. And here's my encouragement for you. if you know that you have some aspects of trauma in your life, I'm encouraging you to do some work in that process, processing that trauma in a way that doesn't stay stuck in your system, and that trauma is not preventing you from creating bridges of support with others who may not be perfect, but they love you, they care for you, and they want to be there for you. And so that's going to require some openness on your part and some vulnerability. And so that's part of cultivating Black girl joy, that sense of collectiveness, right? And so I am encouraging you to try again. But also in trying again, maybe some of the things that you can do is really kind of process, okay, what are my trauma triggers? Am I doing my own work? Right? Because I do want to encourage you that people can't give you what they don't have. Right? And so sometimes we may be looking at relationships as saviorships. I just came up with that word. Right. So we may be looking for relationships to be saviorships, that someone will save me. Right. And so when they don't come through in the way that you've expected them to come through to save me, then we sit in that disappointment. But one of the things we don't realize is that, was that a realistic expectation? And when we are in survival mode, we cannot adequately discern if that was really an expectation. So we may be in this narrative that people are letting us down. And because we don't pause and really cultivate that awareness within ourselves, we may not see that are our expectations unrealistic? Are we expecting people with their own ships and all of the things that they have going on to save us instead of support us? So I would encourage you to process those things, because when we talk about unpacking the strong Black woman myth, prioritizing mental wellness and self-care, and cultivating Black girl joy, that definitely is anchored in how we are doing our work. And are we connecting in social relationships that are healthy? And are we healthy persons trying to connect to those relationships? That's important. So listen, so here's what I want to talk about today. I've been, and if I had to give this a title today, it would be titled Systems Failure. Yeah. Systems failure. This has just been marinating in my soul, and definitely just been praying about it as we witness all this happening in this world and in this United States of America, maybe divided states of America. But here's something that's been in my soul. When we look at the statistics and things that are happening with Black women, right? Heard a quote that Black women are the most educated demographic in this nation, yet and still, due to aspects of racism, sexism, racial, gendered, all of those things, due to those, and the term intersectionality, due to all of those things, Black women are really, in many ways, I perceive, have become really targets of what we talk about. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. When you look at data with regards to, and probably even more than this now, over 300 something thousand Black women out of federal positions, and all of this, and the unemployment in the African American community. When we look at those things, and I think I was reading something this week that talked about the tides with regards to the churches, because we know in some ways women maybe majorly make up the congregation, and because Black women are having some financial struggles and all of that as a result of what's happening in this world, that has impacted tithes and offerings at the churches. And so there's a lot going on with regards to Black women. And in my work in talking with Black women, something has been just really profound in what I'm hearing. I was talking with someone, and this person is experiencing some financial issues, and they're struggling. And basically, one of the things that we ask when we have a questionnaire that wants to assess for depression, we have this question on there that says, do you perceive that you are a failure or that you have let your family down in some way? And as I was talking to this Black woman in asking the question, I could hear the quiver in her voice. And she answered affirmatively, yes, several days. And it was almost as if when she answered that, there was this aspect of shame that she was experiencing, because the ways that she's been able to, or in the past, that she's been able to come through and make it happen and all this in the family, these days have made it that much worse, where she's not been able to come through in the ways that she has in the past, and is internalizing that as her personal and individual failure. And then I talked with another Black woman and was just talking about how in many ways that some of the Black women around her and even her are struggling financially in these times. Even with degrees, struggling to make it. And some of what is happening is that internalizing this as a failure, a personal failure or failing, which brings about shame and stress. And so I want to talk about this today in the aspect of this is a systems failure. I want to talk about aspects of systemic and structural racism. Of course, we have internalized racism. We know that interpersonal, all the things, but we need to emphasize, even in this point and space of where we are, that what Black women are experiencing is not an internal failure. This is also rooted in systemic and structural racism, and it's not a fictitious construct. It is a reality. Now, here's the thing. And so I'm coming from an article by Braverman and many other authors that talk about and really define systemic and structural racism. Listen, it says this. I love this quote. It says this: structural and systemic racism are often invisible, at least to those who are not its victims. And this is what it says. Systemic and structural racism are forms of racism and are pervasively and deeply embedded in and throughout systems, laws, written and unwritten policies, entrenched practices, and established beliefs and attitudes that produce, condone, and perpetuate widespread unfair treatment of people of color. And so I want to give this definition that they provide with regards to the definitions of systemic and structural racism, because this is what's going to ground this conversation. Basically, they define systemic racism as the involvement are of whole systems and often all systems. For example, political, legal, economic, healthcare, school, and criminal justice systems, including the structures that uphold the systems. Structural racism emphasizes the role of the structures, the role of structures such as laws, policies, institutional practices, and entrenched norms that are the system's scaffolding, right? And so when we talk about this, here it is, it says this: systemic racism is so embedded in systems that it is often assumed to reflect the natural and inevitable order of things. Why is it when we talk about Black women in the workplace, Black women in the community, that they can be the most educated demographic, but yet and still not receive the adequate pay in accordance to their work and to their level of education, where there is this aspect of working twice as hard than everyone else and still not receive the accolades and the due, whether it be income, whether it be promotions, at the rate of other people, to many, and in many cases, that are less qualified with less education. And when we talk about this aspect of intersectionality, right, we're not only talking about just gender, we're not only talking about just race, how all those is assumed, and how we as Black women are treated in this society. Now, here's the insidiousness of it. These systems and these structures are so ingrained and normalized that many times they go under the radar. They are under the radar as some of the culprit of what is taking place in our communities and in our families. Let me just cite that example. This Black woman is internalizing her struggle in providing financially with her family. She's internalizing that as solely as an individual failing, when this Black woman is working 2 jobs. This Black woman is working, trying to make ends meet, and yet and still is seeing it as her own personal failing. That's the insidiousness of the systems and the structural racism that takes place in this country. And here's what I want to express and communicate. This is for us, to our Black women. This is not all on you. This is not all on you. I am encouraging you to look. And I know sometimes, here's the thing. I know when we're in survival mode, and right now, that is the name of the game right now, the name of the season in some ways. Some women, not saying all, some women are striving. Some women are thriving. I'm not saying that all of us, because remember, we're not a monolithic demographic. So not all Black women are struggling. But I do know that some Black women are struggling. And this may not be you today. And if this is not you today, good. Maybe you can be in that number of community care, really providing and showing up for others who are going through this. But there are, because I am at the intersection of some of these struggles. I'm hearing it. I am seeing it. And because I'm at the intersection of some of these struggles, this is happening. numbers don't all, when we talk about qualitative and quantitative data, we talk about quantitative data as far as numbers don't always give you the stories, doesn't always give you the narrative of what is happening. So when we see these numbers as far as over 300,000, I'm sure that's more now, of Black women unemployed and all of this, especially when this administration came in with an axe and an intention to really create upheaval within some communities. And because in many ways, Black women are the incubator, the nurturer of many of these communities, there's direct impact. And so as a result of that, I am encouraging us to see things on a larger context, that this is a systems failure, systems failing. And here's the thing, and I want to encourage you as Black women continuing to try to show up every day in the midst of battling, maybe, kind of guerrilla warfare where you don't see. Now, there's some things that we do see, and I'm not saying that we do see some of these things, but when we're in survival mode, it's hard to kind of take a step back and say, oh, this is a systemic and structural racism that is the architect of some of what we are experiencing in this nation, the struggle that we are experiencing in this nation. There is a history, and not only a history, but a present of these practices that are taking place with the lie of, well, it's on you. If you're not making it, if you're not achieving or able to achieve financial stability for your family, then this was solely a result of choices that you've made. And so they want you to buy into this internalization of individual failure so that it can in many ways keep the invisibility of these systems and structures behind the curtain. Do you see what I'm saying? And so we think that the answer is, well, we just need to continue to work harder. And that is the lie. Yes, we can continue to work harder, but yet and still the impact, right, of these systems and structures remain the same. And so we're doing all this individual striving to some extent, even to the point where we're unhealthy. We're not taking care of ourselves because we have internalized this is a personal and individual failing instead of a systems failure. It's amazing that Black women have been able to, again, be one of the most educated demographics in this nation for a system that was not meant for them. That is a window into the fortitude that these women have. And I also believe the gifts and the power of what resides within Black women, but yet and still, it does not negate our own humanity. We are human. And so today I just wanted to pause and just to bring light. If some of you have already you already know this, good. I love this, good. But some of us, because we may be in survival mode, we may not see the invisibility or recognize the invisibility of the systemic, structural, and institutional racism that is prevalent in this society. And this also includes when we talk about the political, the legal, the economic, the health care aspect of this, Black maternal health, all of these things, right? Well, the Black mother didn't get enough nutrition and this and this, they're not. What about the allostatic load that Black women are experiencing? The stress, the inequities within the healthcare system, the biases within the healthcare system. This is real. When you have a survey that was taken, that was completed by students that are becoming doctors, that really has bought into some of the myth that Black people experience less pain than white people. That the skin of Black people is thicker than that of white people. This is some of the research that has been done. That there are research that has been done to say that these myths perpetuate within the medical field. So these are doctors that are going in to take care of us who ascribe to these myths, right? And because of these things, we need to recognize that, yes, do we have some accountability? I'm not listen, balance. Remember, people, balance. I am not saying that we don't have any accountability. Yes, we can do what we can do by the power and strength of God. Yes, but I also am saying that it's not all on our individual striving. We are in many ways striving with the pressure and the oppression of a system that is bent and is racist. That it is. You know, it talks about, when we talk about these systems, it says it consists of societal systems and structures that expose people of color to health harming conditions and that impose and sustain barriers to opportunities that promote good health and well-being. The opportunities denied include access to good jobs with benefits, safe, unpolluted neighborhoods with good schools, high quality health care, and fair treatment by the criminal justice system. Listen, it says this. Systemic racism is the iceberg's more dangerous part because, right, when we talk about an iceberg, the systemic racism is below the surface, invisible, right? And basically it says this, it places people of color at a disadvantage in multiple domains, affecting health in ways often more difficult to recognize than explicit interpersonal racism. Listen, systemic racism is so embedded in systems that it is often assumed to reflect the natural, inevitable order of things. I think I've said that, but bears repeating. What am I saying? This is for us. I am hopefully, if you're not aware, awakening you to the reality. And I know, listen, I know when we talk about spiritual, if God be for us, who can be against us? Get that. But does not alleviate or take away the experience of what's happening in this United States to many Black women. The systemic and structural practices and racism is real. And I'm encouraging you to consider that it's not just a personal failing. We need to broaden that context. It's also, it's in many ways a systems failure, and to recognize that being able to continue to stand and to walk with your head up and to persevere, it's not something to be minimized, especially with the forces that are upon us, but it's something to continue to take care of yourself so that you can continue to walk in who you are and whose you are, but also knowing that we refuse to continue to internalize that which is not just an individual failing, but it's a systems failure. And that bears some of the brunt of what is taking place in our lives, in our communities, in our churches, in our families, and within ourselves as well. Well, listen, that's all the time that I have for. I want to encourage you, please remember, relentlessly and intentionally pursue authentic and genuine relationships vertically with God, horizontally with others, and inwardly with yourself. Maintain and sustain a keen sense of awareness and ongoing discovery about self as well as others. Take good care of you and engage in things that are helpful for your mind, body, soul, and spirit. And remember, out of the heart flows the issues of life. Let's continue to talk about it and continue our journey towards emotional healing. Until next time, bye-bye.
So I need.
You've been in tuned to Talking with Dr. Toy, providing a holistic approach to emotional healing with your host, licensed professional counselor, Dr. Toy Lisa Mitchell. Please connect with me at talkingwithdrtoy.com or Facebook at Talking with Dr. Toy or email talkingwithdrtoy@gmail.com. I would love to hear your story and hear your heart regarding the issues of life you may be experiencing. Remember, out of the heart flows the issues of life. Let's continue to talk about it. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening, and please join me next week for Talking with Dr. Toy.